from all measures, you're incredibly successful. But a lot of people don't succeed when they're successful. They fall apart, they burn out, that goes to their head. What advice do you have to people who are succeeding to stay successful at what matters most?
This is something that I continue to struggle with, to be totally honest. I think that as someone who's I've always felt like God has put a great calling in my life. And I don't believe we're born to compete with anyone else. I believe we're here to compete with what we know we're capable of becoming. And I struggle every day feeling like I'm nowhere close to becoming the potential God gave me. And so to this day, I have to challenge myself to work less, to stop thinking about how I'm going to serve and impact obsessively and actually enjoy my daughter singing to the Elmo song. I need to intentionally be present with my husband at dinner when I am tempted to daydream about creating, building, serving, and impacting. And it is a daily struggle for me. So, and maybe other people listening can relate to that as well. But it's something that I'm just being really intentional, because I can look back and go, okay, I've achieved all of these incredible things that they only write about in movies. And yet the moments that fill my soul the most aren't usually those achievements, right? They're the times when, my daughter was born, or, I helped, but they're also, let me say this, and maybe you have these moments too. Like just this morning when I get a letter from someone who says, like, I read Believe It, or I, whatever, and I decided to trust myself and it worked, or things like that. Like those are the moments that fill my soul. So, I'm trying to be intentional about doing both, about being someone who I feel is called to serve in a great way, but also trying to not look back at life and say, gosh, I forgot to enjoy it.
That's so good. And you use the word 3 or 4 times, the word intentional. I think anybody who's a high performer like you, and the vast majority of our community, they're visionaries. They're growing. They're stretching themselves. We don't want to be successful just in the business and not be successful at home. And it's what happens in the home. It's what happens in your heart. That's where the true lasting measure of success is. And so congratulations if you can do both. But if we're going to do one, we don't need to sell the business for $1.2 billion and lose everything else that matters even more. We want to really be intentional as you are. And it's hard. It takes work, because when you can do a lot, you tend to want to do a lot. But you don't want to do a lot of what doesn't matter as much as a lot of what does matter most. And I congratulate you and Paulo on being great at both, producing great value and staying centered, or working to stay centered at the things that matter most. The name of the book is Believe It, Get It, Believe It. It's incredible. Lightning round. Jamie, I'm going to ask you a bunch of quick questions just for fun. Don't think about it. Just tell me whatever comes to mind. What's your biggest leadership pet peeve? What drives you crazy?
Okay,
you're thinking too long. Be honest.
What drives me crazy?
Yes.
What drives me crazy?
Yes.
Incongruency. Incongruency.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, incongruency. I think when you show up fully authentically is when you're your most powerful. I think your authenticity is your superpower. I think most leaders are scared to be authentic.
Before you speak at the Global Leadership Summit, or before you go on live with Tony Robbins or John Maxwell, or wherever you are, what do you say to yourself right before you give a talk?
God, use me. Love, use me.
Love it. What is a recent discipline or habit that you've added to your life that you're excited about?
4:30 a.m. wake-ups. Getting time.
Let's go.
That still time in the morning. That still time is been healing and also just inspiring.
I wonder what percentage of the highest performers actually have a very early wake-up time. I don't know what that is, but I'm guessing it's pretty high. That time in the morning is very important to me, and I think that's true for a lot of leaders. Is there a favorite book that you've read recently?
I'm reading The Way of Integrity right now with Martha Beck, which is really interesting. also about congruency with your truth, which is really powerful. Love that one. I'm reading
Mm-hmm.
so many books. You know what happens when you write a book? Like
Mm-hmm.
Believe It came out. Now all of a sudden everyone wants me to read their books to give an endorsement. I'm like, there's so many books. But it's really fun. So
Right.
actually I should change my answer. Believe it. Believe it. How to go from underestimated to unstoppable.
It is. Well, I do want to congratulate you on the book hitting New York Times bestseller, and it's really fun to see that your influence is increasing every single day. I think your message is one that is so encouraging, and I just would say, as a student of leadership, thank you for every single sacrifice that you made, every rejection that you endured, every obstacle that you overcame, to give us a story that we can both applaud and just learn from, because it's thousands upon thousands of lessons. And the great thing is, when you were a waitress at Denny's or sacking groceries, that was preparation. When you were building your business, interestingly enough, that was preparation. When you sold it and became the first female CEO for L'Oreal, that was preparation for what you're doing today, which is an even bigger influence. And what you're doing today is preparing you for what you're going to do in the years to come. And so I just love being a fan, cheering you on, and congratulate you on a life that really is making a difference, Jamie.
I wanted to ask you, Jamie, like at the heart of this book, and you just sort of talked about it, but at the heart of this book, there's this tension between listening to yourself, trusting your instincts, and heeding the advice of perhaps people who have more experience than you do in a particular area. You know, this idea of intuition versus expertise. How, in your opinion, based on your experience, how does one strike that balance in business and in life?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like that's like the defining question
For sure.
of if we end up going after our dreams or if we talk ourselves out of our own truth. And here's what I mean by that is, I have the great honor now and great blessing of having so much invaluable advice from experts that's helped me a ton, that's guided me a ton.
Right.
But everyone has an opinion. And my journey, and I love this question so much, because I think anyone joining us right now or watching this on the replays after, who is maybe a makeup artist or a stylist or whatever it is, and they're doing their own business. My journey was years and years and years of everyone, especially in the beginning, saying that what I was doing, that I needed to change what I was doing if it was going to work, right? So I have skin condition called rosacea, which is hereditary. There's no cure for it, and it's really bumpy and red. And I was in what I thought was my dream job in television news. And I would hear in my earpiece from my producer, there's something on your face, you need to wipe it off. And it was the makeup breaking up. And long story short, I started like an obsession trying to find something that would work, and nothing did. And that's really what sparked the idea for It Cosmetics. But when I launched the company, there was really, this was pre-YouTube when I first launched it, and nobody was showing real people yet, right? And so I had this like vision, what if I show how the product actually works on my bright red bumpy skin? And what if I have models, all ages, shapes, sizes, gender identity, skin tones,
which was
everything.
Revolutionary.
Yeah. And I was like, and so then I thought, this makes so much sense, right, Brian? Like intuitively, and I believe every one of us, every person with us live right now, everybody watching this, every one of us has a knowing inside our own gut. I believe it's always right. And I just sat there, and intuitively, I would say to the buyers at all the department stores and the beauty retailers that were telling me no, I would say to them, and even QVC, all of them, for 3 years, they all told me no, I wasn't the right fit. I needed to change our packaging. I couldn't use models that were real people, or it would never sell. And I would say to them, okay, but intuitively, if I'm wanting to buy a product and I don't see someone who looks like me showing, with the product on, how do I know it's going to work for me? Right. And this went on for 3 years, and it was no after no after no after no. And I think every one of us, no matter what journey we're on, has somebody look us in the eye and tell us, no, you're not the right fit. You're not enough. You don't belong. You need to change who you are if you want us to carry your product.
Mm.
And I feel like sometimes experts give feedback and it's a gift and it's helpful. And a lot of times it's not. And I think our life comes down to learning to hear our own gut instinct and say, is that right for me? Is that advice right for me? Is that a gift? Should I apply that? Right. And a lot of times I would say, oh yeah, that was good. That was good. I didn't realize the font in my packaging wasn't big enough. I didn't, those things. But other times, and this was 3 years, like we got down to under $1,000. Everyone knows the highlight reel, Brian. Everyone knows, oh, you know, this girl sold her company for $1 billion. It Cosmetics today is the largest luxury makeup company in the country. But this is why I thought it was so important to write this book, because when we just see the highlight reel, we feel alone in our own setbacks, alone in our own struggles, alone in our own rejections. So I lay it all out there because had I ever, like when I look back at the mistakes I made, the things I did wrong, they almost always come down to when I didn't trust myself.
Right.
And I just think it's such a universal thing. And had I ever, because we have moments in life where it's like our guts on one hand, experts' opinions on the other. And if they differ, which one do we listen to? Right. The defining moments of how It Cosmetics turned into $1 billion company are simply come down to decisions where I didn't listen to people who told me to change what I was doing, even if it meant I could get into their stores. I trusted my gut on the journey. And that's also what made all the difference. Like, you know, even L'Oreal for a long time said to change different things in our meetings, and some of them were so valuable and so helpful. But when we eventually became part of the L'Oreal family, I think why they acquired us is because we were doing stuff so different from all their other portfolio companies that it was we complemented, right? So anyways, trusting your gut, I think, is the victory in life, not the outcome of your company.
Yeah. You sold the company how many years ago?
3 years ago, 3.5.
Does that mean that, do you still work for the company?
Yeah. So what happened? So I agreed to stay on as the CEO of the company, and there's nothing financially holding me to it, but I gave them my word that I would stay for 3 years, and so so it was pretty cool in the sense of, you know, I started this scrappy business, couldn't afford to pay myself the first 3 years, as I shared, and how to do. Oh my gosh, I share all the crazy stuff in the book about like all the jobs I tried to do myself and how when I couldn't afford to hire anyone, I was trying to just figure it all out and all the stuff we did to do that. And so it was wild to then, you know, be acquired by L'Oreal and see inside of this massive company. And it was a really cool experience. I felt underdressed every single day of my life. But it was this kind of like really wild moment where I was just like, wow. You know, when I was waitressing tables at Denny's, I didn't imagine I would be inside of L'Oreal headquarters in Paris. And you know, it was the coolest experience. So I gave them my word I would stay for 3 years. And I kept my CEO title at It Cosmetics. So that meant that I was the first woman in their 100+ year history to hold a CEO title of any brand, which was really fun. And I learned a ton. And in 3 years.
How ironic is that? Yeah, you were the only CEO in cosmetics of a beauty brand.
That's a woman.
That's a woman.
Well, I believe, you know, that, what is that saying? Won't be the last. There's going to be a lot more because
I mean,
for sure.
So there should be, you know?
Yeah.
So are you done there now?
Yeah. So we doubled the size of the business in the first 2 years after they bought it, and I ran it for 3 years. And then I just had this knowing. We talk about, and by the way, oh my gosh. Okay. So, you know, when we started doing really, really well is when I started hearing from book agents and producers and stuff about my story. And I always had this feeling like I didn't want to do it unless I knew it would be authentic. And they're like, we can have a ghostwriter or whatever. And I always said no, because I was so focused on running the business. So I said no to meetings for 5 years. And about a year and a half ago, I just had this feeling like, okay, I'm supposed to give or serve at a whole new level and share everything I've gone through, because what I've learned is like when we share that stuff, it's the most fulfilling when you have like even right now, I'm doing an insider kind of launch group for the book. And so a few people, just like your mom, are starting to read the book, and I'm getting messages of women saying like, oh my gosh, this week I made the decision to trust myself and it worked. And I'm just like sobbing at my computer. This is where I get my greatest joy and my greatest fulfillment. And so I decided to step away. Because sometimes knowing when to let go of a dream is as important as knowing when to go after one, right? And I just had this knowing that it's time to just, hopefully, God willing, use everything I've gone through to hopefully be of service to somebody else. And so I sat in my house all alone and sobbed my eyes out and binge ate Lucky Charms and wrote every word in the 80,000 words in the book. And
are you always
yeah,
this calm? You always I feel like you're the most soothing.
Yeah,
like
you are. You're relaxing.
So relaxing and
happy.
Yeah, like such a gentle, positive energy. It's so love. Is that always?
I mean, I think I'm the kind of person where I always show up loving. I'm probably always underestimated for that reason, because like inside, I'm like so on fire.
Okay.
But like, I don't waste a second of my life judging or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just
we have no judgment over here. We don't believe, no judgment.
I just love the story about QVC, your first time going on QVC. And because this is the ultimate story of following your heart and following your gut and doing and staying true to yourself. I feel like that's thrown around all the time. Stay true to yourself. Every time I ask someone, what's your best advice? Stay true to yourself. But this exemplifies, this is textbook, stay true to yourself. I would love for you to share that story.
Yeah, I think that we all kind of know or believe these things like, oh, I need to be true to myself, right? But then when it comes to real life and how we show up and how we decide what to do when everything's on the line, that's when it gets really tough to not just like know our values or know what we believe in, but then to actually live them. And I talk a lot in the book about how while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. And I saw that now play out over a decade in the tens of thousands of entrepreneurs I've had the blessing of meeting, and very few ever make it. I think it's how Oprah has made it. Nobody was ever like her or is ever like her. And to reveal all the parts that normally people would hide, that's how we create connection. That's our superpower. And I after 3 years of hearing no from everyone. I mean, Angie, and every ounce of my being, I kept feeling in my gut like, okay, I created this great product with It Cosmetics. It works for me, and I have hereditary rosacea. Nothing else would work. And I just kept feeling in my gut like I need to not just launch this product, but also show on real women, every age, size, skin challenge, skin tone, like show real people using this and show how it works. And I kept having this vision. When I launched the company, it was even before YouTube was doing this. So no one was doing this. All we saw was these ads on television and commercials where it was usually somebody with the same skin tone. They always were like the same age and flawless skin. And you never saw anybody with, that looked like you and like me. You know what I mean? You just never did. And so I had this vision, oh my gosh, if I can create a product that works and like try to shift culture however I possibly can in the beauty industry of how they define beauty. Like that was my deep mission, right? For because growing up when I'd see those ads, I always loved them. I always aspired to look like that, but deep down inside, right? They always made me feel not enough in this weird way. So I was like, oh my gosh, if I can create a company whose mission is so much bigger than me, and I could try to shift culture in the beauty industry and how they define beauty and change those images for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself and every adult who still does. And so this big vision. And then all of a sudden, for 3 years, everyone's telling me it's not going to work. Everyone's saying no. And when a retailer says no to you, what they're saying is, I don't think that we can make money from you. Is what they're saying. We don't believe in what you're doing or that it will sell or that it will work. And so 3 years of that goes on, including, years of hearing no from QVC. And it's a crazy wild story I share in the book of how we eventually got a yes to get one shot on QVC. Now, QVC is a live television channel broadcast to 100 million homes. And when you go live, you have this big sales goal each minute that you're live. And if you're not hitting your sales goal, they pull you off, right? And anyhow, after years of rejection, I got one shot, one yes, big yes, to get one chance live on QVC to sell our concealer. And we were only selling 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely in business. And I learned, Angie, that I would need to hit their sales goal in the 10-minute window, I would need to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer. And I also learned the deal was going to be consignment, meaning I had to figure out how to make all the product, pay for it, ship it in, and then get my one big shot on air for 10 minutes. And if it didn't sell, it would all come back to me, which means we'd be out of business. So it was a big risk, and we applied for an SBA loan because we had no money. We had literally no money left. We were down to well under $1,000. So we got 22 banks said no, and the 23rd bank said yes, just to fund the inventory for that one order for QVC for that one chance in 10 minutes. So basically everything was on the line. I flew out to QVC a week before the airing, and I sat in their parking lot in this rental car all alone. And I just stared at the front of the building, knowing the next time I walked in there, my whole life was going to change or I would be bankrupt. And here's where the struggle came is, we hired third-party consultants who are amazing. They help a lot of people succeed on selling in television or selling their products in stores. And they all told me the same thing. They said, if you want a chance at succeeding, here's what you need to do. You need to go on the air in your 10 minutes, use this type of model. And all the models look like they're 12 and they were all the same skin tone with flawless skin. And I'm like, listen, what if I just take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea and show the world how this product works? And what if I put real women of every age and shape and size and skin tone and skin challenge? And I would argue and I say, because if I'm sitting at home watching, how do I know something's going to work for me if I don't see it on someone who looks like me? To me, it was so common sense, and they were mortified. And they here's the thing: they wanted me to win, and they were giving me the best advice they knew how on what they said is the only way people will buy a product from something from they would say these unattainable images of aspiration that no one can possibly look like, but that is what sells product. And I'm like, so it's tough. So I sat in that rental car knowing that everything was on the line, knowing I had one shot. And it's, my gut was telling me one thing, right? And experts were telling me another. And these are the moments that define our lives, is when we learn to hear ourselves, hear our gut, and then make the decision to trust it. And it's not always easy, right? And I sat in that rental car every day for a week, and I just, I prayed, I cried, but I also imagined who that woman was watching on the other end. And I don't know why, but I kept imagining a single mom in Nebraska folding laundry who was too busy to remember that she mattered and that she was beautiful. And I just kept imagining if she was going to turn on her television for a few seconds, and I was going to be blessed with a few seconds of her time. It came down to this moment where I realized I'd rather have her see me showing women who look like her, calling them beautiful and meaning it. Even if she buys nothing, I'd rather do that than sell a ton of product and stand for nothing. And so I knew what I had to do, but it didn't mean it was easy. And I remember walking into the QVC studios and for that one shot, that 10 minutes. And when we went live, so I remember standing there in the studio, and there's this giant countdown clock on the floor that started at the 10-minute mark. I was sweating so much, and I'm not nervous for television, but it was that everything was on the line, and I was shaking. I remember hoping my Spanx caught all my sweat because I was I can't be sweating through a dress on national television. I was freaking out. But I remember the clock started, and I remember the moment my bare face before shot came up on national television, and I walked over to all the models that I chose as real women, all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all skin tones, all skin challenges. And I remember there was about a minute left in the presentation, and the host says, the tan shade's almost gone, the deep shade's almost sold out. And I was like, and then I remember at the 10-minute mark, the huge sold out sign came up across the screen. I start crying on national television. I remember they cut and then they went to like the next item, which is like Dyson vacuum or Vitamix or Apple iPhone or something. And my husband comes rushing through the double doors of the studio. And I'm like, real women have spoken. And I'm like crying. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And this is
Such
like
a guy.
such a guy. But that one airing, Andy, turns into 5 that year, 101 the next year. Anyways, for 8 years straight, I did 250 live shows a year on QVC, and we built the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. It is right now at this very moment. Mm-hmm. But I only share that because it was 3 years of them saying no. Yeah. And so, like, no one, whoever's listening and needs to hear this today, no one can tell you how big your dream can be. No one can tell you you're not enough. And when people reject you and they literally look you in the eye and tell you they don't think you're going to make it, or you're not the right fit, or you're not this enough or that enough, like those are the moments we don't quit. We don't give up. You know, maybe we cry a little bit, but those are the moments where we listen to our gut and we stay authentic and we keep going. And people who do that are the ones who are able to build something that lasts or that matters or that really, you know, makes a contribution to the world. And I believe every one of us has that inside of us, right? And our life comes down to if we listen to our calling or if we listen to our opposition. You know, because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today. And I feel like a lot of people have these reasons they think they're not quite ready to dream big yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big and to start having that vision. That's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment.
People, I love that. Big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment, and knowing that 100% of success stories you have ever heard, that success story began with somebody going 90 miles an hour and putting the wheels on as they were going and building the thing. They endured years of mess and disorganization and trying to figure out and doubt and risk of failure on the precipice daily. And you don't get that easy path when you want to do great things. Yeah. It's difficult. Les Brown always said, I love Les Brown. Les has been on our stages. Les is a personal development legend. I hope you know who he is. Les Brown always said, he's like, if you want your life to be easy, do hard things. If you want your life to be hard, do easy things. And it just says, it's like, oh, you have to push, you have to struggle. Here's what I want everyone to know. Thinking big today. This is my message to you and thinking big. You are clueless to the depths of your capabilities. You have no idea what you are capable of. You have no idea what your full potential is. And I'm not judgment. I don't know either. Like, there's one guy up there. For me, I'm a spiritual person, so God's got me. God knows the immensity of the soul he put into this body, and no one else does, including me. I have no idea the immensity of the challenges God's got lined up for me 5 years from now, or 10 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you don't know. But what you do know is you're going to arrive and you will be summoned to call your best forth to serve one day. You will be summoned to rise above your own little insecurities and comforts and joys and ask, wow, how can I get more out of myself to be of service in this moment? Whether that is your first 2 years with a new baby, and you're like, my eyes, I haven't slept, you know? Or it's that first 4 years of your startup. It's going to demand so much of you, but you will rise to it. You will be capable. You will learn as you go. So stop all the waiting, get in the game, put the wheels on as you're going, move towards that dream with more rapidness, because you'll figure it out as you go. It won't be perfect. Jamie said, you're so vulnerable. Yet the other day you said to me, I feel like never in my life, Brendan, have I dropped more balls, I think you were saying.
And right now.
Yeah, tell them about that, because you're thinking big, but she's built $1 billion business. And right now, even after having that experience, she feels like This is life, y'all. Anyway,
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
them about that.
I think, you know, when I think back to the early days of building at Cosmetics, there were years of I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I was trying to do every job in my living room because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think anytime we're also doing something new or dreaming big and trying to go to new levels, just the newness of all of it is overwhelming, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so, you know, at the end of a 10-year journey with that, building over 1,000 employees and $1 billion company and all that, I knew a lot about the beauty industry and about manufacturing and legal and acquisitions and building a team and leadership and all those things, right? And now, as a first-time author, I
A whole
actually
new game.
feel a whole new game. I feel like literally I'm back in my living room, not knowing what I don't know, right? And it's a growth, a major season of growth for me. And you know, you and I, Brendan, talk a lot about just the idea of being a lifelong student. And you know, I'm proud to be a lifetime student. And I'm honored to learn from everyone in our community right now who's posting in the comments and posting in Facebook and posting in Instagram. I'm part of the Growth Day Morning Show. We learn from each other. I learn from all the other Growth Day coaches. And I'm in a season right now of going, okay, because for the last 5 years, I've been offered book deals because of my story, but I didn't want to have a ghostwriter do it. So I said no for 5 years. I wanted, because I have learned in my life, like, you cannot fake authenticity. And, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book a lot actually is how, you know, authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. And that's in everything, right? And I talk about all the lessons I've learned around that in the book. But then for me to have that book actually truly serve at the highest possible level, I wanted to write every word myself. I knew it had to be authentic. So this has been 2 years, actually, a year and a half, little over a year and a half of growth and of dropping so many balls and
learning
you know,
new things, messing it
learning
up,
new things.
trying to get into it.
Exactly. Yeah, like you saw me when I got the first cover in. I was cutting it out and taping it to Jay Shetty's book because it was the right size. Every little thing I'm like trying to figure it out, and because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be right and I want to have no regrets. But yeah, I am dropping balls everywhere in terms of, I mean, last night I was up all night writing web copy, writing because I want it to be authentic to like the heart and soul of how I want to serve. And I'm doing a big launch event, which we'll talk about later. Because it's still top secret, but we're going to tell everyone on Growth Day first. But
she's doing it big. She's going for it.
Yeah.
She decided to write a book. And she had, I want everyone, I know some of you are thinking about writing a book or launching something new. When she said, I'm going to write a book, she said, I want it to be a bestseller. I want it to really impact millions of people. I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to really get it out there. Even though, please listen, she'd never written a book, had no idea how to write a book, and had zero idea how to promote something.
Yeah.
Her confidence in thinking big came from her belief in her ability to figure things out. She's like, I'll figure it out. So your big vision should not be limited by today's skill set or today's competency. Your big vision should be based on your service you want to give, your dream you want to live with your family. And you will develop the skills along the way as you get in motion towards the thing. You don't start the journey perfect. The definition of perfection is to perfect. To perfect requires that you start. You start something, release something, launch something, and you perfect as you go. Perfect is a verb. It is done to something that is out there, that is released, that is built to perfect. And so you don't start perfect, you perfect. And then as soon as you go, oh, okay, we're going to start this Growth Day Morning Show. We don't know how to plug it into Instagram or Facebook. We don't know how to use an outwork mic, these mics. We don't know what the heck we're doing. Our first 4 days, we were just perfecting how to do that little piece. We still are. I think that's so important. And Jamie, I want to give you credit because sometimes you feel like you're dropping so many balls because you're so good at what you're doing in every other area, but you're also doing awesome and you're getting great momentum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be brave, and I'm trying to, and this, this is something, that I think is huge too, is, we often talk about when, I have a whole journey of hearing no for years, right? Experts telling me my vision wasn't going to work for It Cosmetics and all those kind of things. But I still believe that it's our own self-doubt that kills more dreams than almost anything else. It's our own kind of limitations that we put on ourselves, or our own reasons we give ourselves why we need to still wait to do something, or we're not quite ready to write the book, or any of those things, right? And I get why, because doing it all and putting ourselves out there is scary. And sometimes it's easier to not dream big, because then we don't have to be afraid of not hitting that mark, or we stay in our comfort zone, right? But I think that to recap what you said in the start of this, which is so good, it's so good, is until we take those chains off we put on ourselves, we don't know how much we're capable of. We don't know the level we're capable of dreaming and serving and giving and creating and ideating and inspiring, right? And leading and all of those things. And I think that,
and the level of discipline you're all capable of. The level of, so Jamie is in what we call a launch window. So for those who are new, Jamie is launching a book called Believe It, and it comes out next month. I hope that you will pre-order on Amazon. It's called Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. It comes out next month. She's in this time we call a launch window. A launch window is when your life becomes very deep work, essentialism, high performance habits. You are doing this thing. A lot of balls are following all over there because you have this limited amount of time to launch this thing. And until you've been through that several times, you don't know how much you can get done. I'll give you an example of thinking big. This month, if you told me, okay, Brendan, in 1 month, listen to y'all, in 1 month, rebranded the company, onboarded 20 plus people and teams from outsourcing and internal all around, launched a new offering, brought in all our new growth coaches, in other words, found 8 other new promotional partners and friends to serve, built a new software team, building the software, serving all of our customers without missing too many beats, launching a new community platform, launching this show, and somehow enjoying the month. If you told Brendan, 19-year-old Brendan, that was, he'd be like, I don't know how to hire. I don't know what a brand is. I don't know what a company is. What is it? If you told your former self that, or your future self, I should say, you don't know what you're capable of. And I'm not saying that to be oh, look at me, because I've been feel like I'm putting the wheels on as I'm going. But I said, okay, let's just get in motion. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. It's crunch time. Let's go. Let's move things forward. Move things forward. Move things forward. You will perfect as you go. But no way could I imagine that we could do all of this in a single month until you go for it, guys. You got to go for your dreams. Thinking big means moving big, taking big action, taking daily, you might call it small actions, but those daily small actions compound. You got to get in the game. Some of you, it's so easy to sit it out and you're still waiting for someone's approval or someone's understanding. It's if no one understands, if you feel like no one understands you, you have no one to blame but you. We have to learn. And I don't say that judgmentally, I had to learn to communicate. I sucked at communicating. I felt like I didn't have connection with people because I didn't know how to communicate. Be vulnerable, share emotions, create human, good friendships. I didn't know how to do that. So I did a lot of you personal growth lovers who read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Anyone read that? Oh my God, changed my life.
Yeah, I need to reread it. I read it 20 years ago.
So good.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
I did that because I was terrible with people. And so now I communicate to millions of people daily. So if you told that really awkward dude, oh, you're going to talk to millions of people, you didn't believe it. But as you jump into the dream and you get momentum, you start to believe it more. You get more skills, more capabilities. Those capabilities lead to competency. That competency leads to confidence. and you're moving. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jamie, I'm all
And not
fired
only
up
do you
today.
talk to millions of people, you train other incredible teams. I know I always bring up Oprah's team on the show, who I know you've trained, but you train so many people how to do it also. So it's like, not only do you do it now, you also are like one of the top people in the world at helping some of the top people in the world do it themselves. So it's pretty remarkable. And one
Thank
thing
you.
I want to share, because I'm reading the comments, a lot of people saying, oh, it's hard to unchain ourselves. It's hard to start. It's hard to start when we don't know if our idea is good enough, or we don't know if our dream is right, and all that kind of thing. And one thing you just said that I just want to call out, because I think it's really important, is that sometimes people do cheer for you after you've made it. And I want to call this out, okay?
Yes,
Because
so true.
I've lived through this. I have lived through this, okay? I have so many stories, and that's why it's so, everyone writing a book, it's like, it is the greatest joy to go, oh my gosh, if people knew I went through all this, they would feel less alone. They would feel like they can get through it too, because this is the real stuff that happens. But there were so many people that did not cheer for me until after after my company was a success, or
Yes.
after we were
So
splashed in
true.
all the magazines, or after. And often when they start cheering for you, then it's in the form of, I always knew that you would make it, or I'm so proud of you. I've been rooting for you from the beginning. You're like, no, you were. But it's okay, right? I think it's
Right.
or they're like, they're telling people how they know you, and it's wild to watch this. And it's not that they mean harm. Here's what when I've peeled back the layers on this, there's a couple lessons here I want to share with anyone, especially if they're scared to start, if they're scared to take that jump, if they're scared to dream big and call their shot and go for it and all of that. Because what we start to do, I think, as humans, is we share our dreams or our ideas with the people around us. Sometimes we share them in groups. And then sometimes we share them with experts, or with, people in our industry that have had a lot of success or whatever. And then when we don't get the kind of response we're hoping for, right? Then we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to think we're not ready, or we think, oh, you know what? A million other people have done this idea. Like, maybe I shouldn't do it. It's already been done so many other times. So here's the big thing I've learned, okay, is, first of all, as we know, the only way to ever have a human connection is to show up authentically, right? And that can be with your partner, with a friend, with your customers online, with what you're doing, right? With how you're launching your dream. So just to take a step back, if you are doing something authentically, right, your dream. So in my case, there's a million beauty companies out there, and I launched a beauty company. Well, there's millions of them. Someone had already done it. Millions of people had already done it, right? But when you do something authentically, no one can do it the way you're doing it, right? So by definition, what you're doing is novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And here's what I've learned. Other people, typically, even experts, even visionaries, they typically can't imagine something being successful unless subconsciously they've already seen proof that it's already been done and it's already been successful.
Yes.
But because you're doing it authentically to you, it's never been done before. So don't be surprised when the people around you who love you, or the experts you have so much respect for, don't initially give you the reaction to your big dream or your big idea. It's because no one's done it the way you're going to do it. So it's never been done before. It's novel, it's new, right? And most people would never admit this, but unless subconsciously they've seen it that way and they've seen it succeed, they're not going to believe that it will. So,
yeah. Except except people who have done it themselves.
Themselves.
Like you and I believe in people. We believe in you guys so much because when you meet people who came from nothing and they built it and they did it, they're the ones who usually are on board. Like, sounds like, go for it. Don't know if it's going to work, but cheer them on, encourage it. Like, people who've actually done it are the most encouraging. Yes.
Yeah. And we've gone through the journey of hearing thousands of people not believe in us. And then when you come out of the other side of that, you're like, and you have a whole new perspective, right? But the truth is, I mean, in my own journey, for example, as it pertains to building the company, I also learned years later, the hard way, after crying myself to sleep a lot of nights, after hearing a lot of no's, I learned, oh, wait, most of the beauty retailers, They're amazing and they're great. And they all said no to me for years, but they've also never actually built anything themselves.
Yes.
Right. Right. And it's like, oh, and to your point, that's why I'm so passionate about Growth Day and supporting it however I can, but also this morning show, right? Because it's like when you surround yourself with people that are in that space that share these kind of stories, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it that like Aunt Margie said that she didn't think this was going to be a success, but that's okay. She loves me anyway, and she's never built something like this. So she's seeing it through the best lens she knows how. But I'm not going to let that penetrate me or me calling my shot, me going for my dream, me dreaming big, right?
What would you say is the most important what would you say the most important trait would be for success?
I think
besides believing in yourself, because I think we've spoken about that so much.
Yeah. I think I can give you 3 things, but
give me 3.
I really think that, and it's not just believing in yourself, making the decision to believe success is possible for you. I think that so many of us just think we're not qualified, or we don't have what it takes, or we don't come from the right family, or we don't come from the right background, or we don't have the right education, or we don't have the right experience, all those things. And I think we talk ourselves out of it. And I think making that decision to believe it's possible is huge, like huge. Some of the things that just come also top of mind is, I talked a little bit earlier about when I was building at cosmetics and how it wasn't just about, finding a product that worked, or I think that so many people can be great at setting goals, and so many people have done enough reading or listened to enough podcasts where they understand the concept of like identifying your why behind what you're doing, right? Which is like your mission for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest mistake I think a lot of people make though around this, and it's why they give up or they stop their health journey, or they, whatever it is, quit the business or never start it. I think that a lot of people identify a why that they think is the right one, and it sounds really good. And if you share it with someone else, it sounds really good. Like maybe it's like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to buy a house, or I'm doing this because I want to pay for my kids' college one day, and those are great whys, right? Like they sound so great. They make so much sense, but often they're not deep enough and they're not meaningful enough to make sure you don't quit when times are tough. And of all the things, I did so many things wrong. One of the things I did right was like you have a why, but you have to peel back the layers and go really, really deep, right? So I shared, like, for me, like wanting to shift culture and beauty and help end that process of every little girl about to start doubting themselves, every grown woman who still does, and shift culture on that. That was really deep for me because my whole life I'd felt that not enoughness every time I'd see those beauty images. That was way more deep for me, that mission to do that for other people, than it was to go, oh, I want to buy a house, or, oh, I want to create a great product, or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people, they've got to go deeper. Like I think they start, whatever it is, and they have a great why, but like they've got to put, I recommend, because a lot of people don't do this, is putting in that work of going deeper and deeper and deeper.
So what the purpose, the real true purpose is, versus just like a surface level.
Yeah. And some people think they know it. Like maybe it's like, oh, I want to, I want to pay for my kids' school. But if that's all it is right there, for some people, that's not enough. And an example, I'm making this up, but if someone says, oh, you know what? I want to peel back the layers deeper. Maybe the real why there isn't to pay for my kids' college. Maybe the why is to break a multi-generational cycle of complacency or poverty or whatever in your family. And
right, that's a big why.
Yeah. And that could be the same person, right? But they thought their why was to pay for college. And it's easy to then go, oh, you know what I'm saying? But when it's that deep,
But a lot of times people don't even know that why yet.
Exactly.
They have to go down the path first a little bit further to really kind of unravel what was pushing them. Like a lot of times, like what for me anyway, and I know it's a lot of people I know, you go down a path for one reason and your reasons change as you kind of go through it, right? And
Yes.
you morph and grow, and then you really find the real why.
Yeah.
But,
And I think
right?
totally. And I
But
think that's true. I think when you get to a spot though, where you're like, I just want to quit. And if your gut is telling you to keep doing it, that's when I think it's the time where you also have to then go deeper and be like, I want to quit, but my gut's telling me not to, but like, why is it I want to give up? And then just like, in those moments, figure out what is that deep, deep, deep why that fuels you.
Right. I agree. And you always knew, well, you had two things going for you. I think the first thing is, we didn't even touch upon this at the beginning of the podcast, but you created your cosmetic company because you had a need for it. You had rosacea that you couldn't find any product to actually help you. So you were kind of filling an ailment that you actually had.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel like when people do that, when they're feeling, when they themselves are needing of something, and then the best products usually bloom from that.
Right.
And having the why. Did you have that why at a young, because reading your book, you had a work ethic. I know you were like in your yearbook, you said you were like the queen of procrastination, or you were like dubbed that.
Yeah.
But over time, your work ethic became extremely clear, like what a strong work ethic you had. Do you feel like that was a huge part of why you're successful as well? Is because that like 100-hour weeks and kind of grinding like you did, like you just weren't going to take no for an answer, no matter what.
I think not taking rejection personally was huge. Which I can share about in a minute. I don't think someone needs to work 100-hour weeks to succeed. I don't think they need to work a third of the amount of hours I worked to have the kind of success I did. I think when I look back, it's one of the things I actually wish I did differently, with the number of hours I worked. Yeah, because I don't, I pray every day. It hasn't taken a toll on my health and all those things I don't know. But what I realize is that, when I after 3 years of solid no's, not paying myself, when we finally, many years after that, started actually, things were doing really well and our accounts were thriving and we were getting into all these stores, I couldn't process at the time, or maybe a better word is I didn't know how to believe at the time that the success was real. And I worried at every single second it could all come crashing down. And it's another form of imposter syndrome, right?
I was going to say.
Yeah. And so I drove myself so hard because I thought, oh my gosh, like I need to strike while the iron's hot, like all of that. Right. And it never let up. And it was a decade before I realized, oh, I actually didn't yet believe I was worthy of this success. So I couldn't believe that it was happening. And it wasn't until I learned to believe it was real, to believe like it's possible for me, it is happening, I have earned it, all those things, that I was able to better prioritize stuff, that I was able to make bigger decisions. Like, we tried to have a baby. I tried to get pregnant for 10 years and, had miscarriages and so many things. And when we finally welcomed our daughter, she's 2.5 years old now, Wonder, into the world, I was raised with parents that worked so hard all the time and they were often not around. And I just made this decision like, oh, wow, I'm repeating that cycle and I'm not going to do that for my daughter, and it's going to be okay. And my success is going to continue. And it was really just making those big, shifts around that I was better able to do it. But I don't think anyone needs to ever work 100-hour weeks. I did it from a place of, I couldn't believe this success was happening. And I was just driving it so hard because I had a fear it could all come crashing down. And, when I was a waitress at Denny's, I could have never imagined at the time. I always knew like I was supposed to serve in a bigger way and impact and things like that, but I could have never imagined I would have 1,000 employees and, sell my company for over $1 billion cash. Like those kind of things I couldn't imagine. When they happen to us, it's how we react to it. It's a whole other thing. Right. And so that's why I did that part. So
I like that you say that. I think that's really true and real because the imbalance, right? When you work that much, you're giving the amount of stress, like you were saying, you were trying to have a baby and like you were so overworked, your body was like shutting down probably in some way, or because of your hormones or probably your cortisol levels, I mean, so unhealthy. And yet it was, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying. It's that most people do that because they don't feel like it's real. Like that imposter syndrome is such a real thing. And that's what motivates people to do that. Right.
And I think like, I think that not feeling qualified, not like, all of those things. Right. And I think it's so important we're talking about it too, because I think a lot of people who feel imposter syndrome, which is like, oh, I'm not qualified to be doing what I'm doing, or I don't deserve to have clients trust me, or I don't, all the things we think, right? Depending on our own life situation. But like, I feel like it's human. And I feel like it's important to talk about it too, because a lot of people feel it and they think they're alone in it. You know what I mean? And it's like, no,
absolutely.
we all go through it. And for me, I started assembling like a toolkit of things that I would go to, like imaginary toolkit, like quotes, sayings, stories that I would go to when I start feeling that. And, for me, and I think this is universal regardless of people's faith or whatever, but every time I'd start doubting myself or feeling like not qualified or any of those things to be doing what I was doing, yet I felt like it was my calling to be doing it, and my mission and my purpose. I felt like a calling, but so many times I would doubt I was qualified. And there's these famous words I would always go to that would help me. So I'm going to share them in case someone out there needs to hear this right now.
Go for it.
And the famous saying goes like this: God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. And I would read those words over and over. And to me, they mean, regardless of your faith, to me, they mean if you have this thing you can't shake in your gut, like you're supposed to start the group of moms that gets together and just shares the real stuff over wine, whatever it is, you feel this thing you're supposed to do, start the book, start all those things. Like, I believe it's start the business, leave the job you're in, all those things. I think that if you can't shake it, I think it's part of your purpose. I think it's part of your calling. And to me, if something's part of your calling, then it's like, if God doesn't call it qualified, He qualifies the called. To me, that means you have everything you need inside of you already, right? To actually accomplish the calling you were born to walk into. And so when I do doubt myself, which I still do to this day, those are words that I always reference that help me. And so many other lessons I share in the book on things that help, and just, because
I love that quote though. It's beautiful. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
Do you believe that your optimism allows this all to work? Because if you are looking at losses as in, well, this was meant to be part of my journey, and this scar is actually attractive, because that's how I think about it. I think about all those losses as scars, and like that scar giving you character, and that's attractive. Do you believe that optimism was an incredibly big factor and ingredient in your success?
I think optimism is great. I think, though, that knowing why we're doing what we're doing, listening to our gut and going after our calling, like literally living our calling, I think that's the victory.
Hold on though.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Every human needs levels of affirmation along the way to sustain that. Right? Yeah. And so in the beginning, where you're not seeing those results, for many, and you might have, I've always seen results pretty quickly in my good calls. So I always try to think about someone who's not seeing it. So because they don't have optimism, they have delusion, and they think they're going to be, Beyonce when they can't sing, right? Do you feel like believing in your calling gets affirmed along the way? What do you rely on in that beginning? Don't you think blind faith is actually completely grounded in optimism?
I mean, for me, my faith is a huge part of my life.
I'm going to take religion as faith out. I'm saying I'm just thinking about you, young you in this moment, and I'm really fascinated by it. I'm meant to do this because what you're talking about is what I love, which is the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to get into your. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think the victory is the outcome, right? I don't think the victory. Listen, I know how accomplished you are and everything. I know you're going to have the New York Jets one day. I know all that, but I don't think that's the victory. I think the victory is the journey of actually like stepping into all of who you are and not talking yourself out of your own truth. And what I mean by that is this journey that we're talking about, right? Of course, optimism, of course, resiliency to get back up every time you're knocked down, of course, all those things. But I think that so many people listening right now, if they don't ever learn to get still and hear their own truth and hear their own intuition, I think what's going to happen, and this is what happens to most people, is they end up staying in their comfort zone. They end up putting their own immediate failures on a pedestal or other people's opinions or self-doubt. They end up talking themselves out of their own truth. And then they end up never actually becoming the person they're born to be. So for me, I don't think like the fact that I was able to build $1 billion company is the victory. I think the moments of me knowing this is what I'm supposed to do and trusting it, even when it doesn't make sense. And I'll give you one example, okay, of this. So, and maybe this will make sense because optimism, of course, is important, and I know what you're saying. But I think the biggest thing is learning how to hear yourself and trust yourself. I really believe that. There was a moment.
How do you define that as a term? Because I view that as self-belief and confidence and optimism. I think that you're such a, very quickly I'm like, oh, okay, this is my sister. Like literally within the first 3 seconds, I'm like, oh, I see. So I'm trying to do, and I apologize because I'm hoping a different voice might do this for the listener. I'm trying to figure out what words you use to quantify. I fully agree with you, everything you're saying. I'm wondering if you view optimism as, so I think optimism, similar to what we were talking about earlier, sometimes gets pegged as delusion.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about, you see where I'm going? Because I could almost feel you doing that right now. And I'm like, I get you, sister. Because like this is why it's so great. Wordsmithing matters, right? Like, for example, hustle has gotten demonized as like burnout. So I no longer use it because I don't need it. You know what I'm going to call it? Work ethic. Call it what you want. Here's what I can tell you. For all the belief you had and all the love you had in doing what you were doing, I'm pretty confident based on your outcome that there was a lot of work ethic there. And so whatever you want to call it, and sometimes I just think about, I know the word hustle triggers people, so I use the word work ethic now because I don't want to ever not let anybody who cares to listen to me not realize that if you don't put in the work, it is impossible. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just had a big aha moment that what you're saying is optimism. I 1,000,000,000% agree with. And I'm thinking of that right now as belief. Same thing. Yep. And now I'm right there with you. Like, here's the thing and then I want to share one quick story with you too, that hopefully someone listening right now maybe needs to hear. But I mean, when I look back, it's like when people are like, oh, how did you start with close to nothing and build $1 billion company? It's like, yeah, I got back up every time I got knocked down, and I followed my gut and I worked really, really hard. But I do think that one of the most important things I did was just like how to build $1 billion company from nothing. Like, I think one of the most important things is making that decision to believe that you can.
Yes.
And for me, that's optimism, exactly what you're saying. And I guess I call it belief. So yeah, 1,000,000% with that. And one more thing, just on maybe people listening to us right now that are like, oh, Gary, like Jamie, I trust my gut sometimes and it's wrong, or I tried it once and it didn't work, or I don't know how to hear my own intuition. I just want to say, I think that it is a muscle that we can all build. And I think people have to give themselves grace, right? It reminds me of like when you start to meditate, a lot of people try it and they can't do it. They're like, they go through their to-do list in their head the whole time they're trying to meditate, but you have to like give yourself grace and start. And you know what I would say, whether it's entrepreneurs or someone who's 14 years old and out there dating right now, I would say when you start to look back at your experiences and think about moments when you had a gut feeling and you didn't follow it. Like we've all dated like a sketchy guy or like or had a, and like, you're like, you know, his phone didn't really just like shut off for 3 days, or he didn't lose the phone. He went like, you know, and then you kind of make that decision of like, okay.
Talk to me about, I mean, we are really vibing here. I actually want to talk to you offline because I just have had the thought. Talk to, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm so excited.
Okay.
Insecurity.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, to me, like thinking to my girlfriends, friends that were girls that were dating guys that I knew what the guys were doing, which was they were preying on my friends' insecurities, and sometimes brilliant, beautiful girls. And I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This woman, you really triggered something in me. This woman, I'm thinking about 4 or 5 friends through the last 20 years. This woman is subjectively, and if we had 100 people ask, is a million miles better than this man. This man has figured out the cheat code that if he makes her feel insecure, he has the leverage. Thoughts?
Yep. I think that happens every single day. And I think that we look for people that treat us how we believe we deserve to be treated. Like we find partners that meet us.
So you go with, cool, before you worry about jerk off Johnny, this is a big game of your own lack of self-love towards you.
It's your own lack of self-love, because here's the thing, and I don't know your friends, so I'll just say this. I'll make a general statement.
You'll appreciate this. This was mainly 17 to 25 years old, because you see that so commonly there. I mean, in later stages, you know, people are in really deep relationships and you're in different parts of your life. When you're going through high school and college, you're spending so much time with people, you get better reads to the cleanness of the data is like, oh, this is really fucked up. When you're older, you're running in different circles, you don't really get to see it as easily.
Right. And I think that whether, you know, no matter your age, this is what I believe. I think that when someone's treating us like crap and we stay with them, I think it's because we deep down inside don't believe we deserve better yet. And here's the thing, for people like that are dating your friend who's totally screwing them over, right? If you were to bring the best, most amazing, beautifully like kind person into their space, that same girl would probably put them in the friend zone.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, because they don't yet deep down inside believe. Yeah,
it's what they're, and also people value different things through their life. You know, one of the things, you know, right now we live through a generation desperately interested in blaming social media for lack of accountability. They're just pointing fingers, right? Like if you are in a good place with yourself and your perspective is strong around gratitude, an anonymous person's negative comment is not going to ruin your day.
Yeah. And I think when it does, I think that's what's so tough, right? That's when it's a reminder to ourselves, like, oh yeah, we have some more work to do. One of the things I talk about in my book, Believe It, is just that ability to learn to turn down the volume on certain things and turn up the volume on other things. Like one example, we were 3 years into building the company, right? I was hearing no from everyone, Gary, like from all the retailers I dreamed of carrying our products that I used to shop in, right? I would save my tip money, like I mentioned, as a Denny's waitress, and buy products in the department stores or in
what year was this?
So we launched 2007. Like I quit my job 2007. I wrote the business plan on my honeymoon flight to South Africa with my husband. Not the most romantic way to kick off a marriage. And we both got back, quit our jobs, dove all in. I thought, Gary, and maybe so many entrepreneurs listening, I thought, oh, if I just pour everything I have and actually create a product that works, like it's just going to sell. If it's that good, it's just going to sell. And then I didn't realize it would be the hard. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, but being an entrepreneur is by far.
Well, you especially also built that brand different than building a brand today where you can use Shopify and social media to build it. You had to get a yes from Sephora, Ulta, Walmart, Walgreens, and Macy, whoever it was. And that is difficult when you're innovating the way you did. Do you know that my whole life is no? Do you know VaynerMedia? A lot of people listening don't know this. Most brands don't want to say yes to VaynerMedia. We don't want to do a commercial and then go to sleep. Like, we don't want to take 12 weeks to do the perfect commercial and then do print ads that look like it, or banner ads, or digital programmatic. My whole life building VaynerMedia is no. Everything I do is Gary Vee's easy. I just do it with the audience. But VaynerMedia is exactly, I know what you're living through, because when you innovate and you're doing something different and you don't look the part, you didn't work at Procter & Gamble for 13 years.
Yeah.
Or like, what's this Washington State thing? Like, you know what it is.
Well, and it's wild because I would go in and start, I would pitch the product, and, we were staying alive on social media. So we were getting, people were writing just blogs at that point, and we were selling like 1 to 3 orders a day on our website, and people were spreading the word. That was the only way we barely stayed alive. But all the retailers, exactly what you said. And by the way, I've learned this, like, when you're doing something that's authentic or that is different, but even if it's just authentic to you, even in a crowded industry, by definition, it's novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And I really believe, looking back now at this journey and everything, I believe that, like, even a lot of visionaries, touted visionaries, I think they can't imagine anything being successful unless subconsciously they have proof in the back that they've already seen it and it's already worked. So it's like, of course, so many people are going to say no to your dream or doubt your dream if they've never seen it done before. And we had 3 years of every single beauty retailer saying, no, you're not the right fit. It's not going to work. You're not right for our customers. And by the way, we talk about gut feeling. I kept having this gut feeling we're supposed to go on QVC, because then I could actually show my bright red rosacea and prove live that our product works, unlike the photoshopped ads on TV. And this is just something to share for someone who might need to hear this right now, who's having a gut feeling, but they feel like they're wrong. Like, I kept having this feeling, and every time I would do a meeting with QVC, it would be a no. Every phone call, I'd finally get, like, I got their head guy, Alan Burke, on the phone. He's like a legend. He's responsible for building this $1 billion beauty empire on QVC. And I finally got him on a call, and I thought for sure it was going to be a yes. And because if he's taking his precious time, and it was about a minute into the call, and he said, I just need to let you know, we've reviewed your product with all the buyers. It's unanimous. It's a no. You're not the right fit for QVC. And of course, I poured my heart out. I'm like, oh, but I am the right fit. And then we were down to under $1,000 in our bank account at that point. So I remember crying myself to sleep. And long story short, a year later, when I finally did get a yes to go on QVC, I took this big risk that I was advised not to by consultants, and I put real women of all shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin challenges, and I showed my own bare face and all the things that had never been done before. We sold out at the 10-minute mark. I was crying on national television because it's live. QVC is live to 100 million homes.
You knew the truth, and your heart would win, not students telling you what to do.
Yeah, and listen, it was a big risk, but I feel like I know this lesson, that I know this, and now I've seen it play out with thousands of entrepreneurs over the years. But I know that authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure.
Love that.
Right?
Love that.
I just want to share something. Anybody out there feeling like, oh, do I belong? And do I have will I be embraced by this industry I'm in? We all have the same thoughts. And this is going to be a bold statement.
Get them.
What I realized, I could have never sold my company for over $1 billion had I not been on. Had I ever listened to all the feedback along the way from really well-intentioned experts and retailers about how to conform, about how my packaging needs to be, about how to fit in this beauty space, about what I need to change or alter or create to fit into what's going to sell. How did I ever listen to that when it didn't feel authentic to who I was? It never would have happened. And here's what I mean by that. And I just want to share this for anyone who needs this today, because this is so powerful. Because if you are doing something authentically to you, by definition, no one else out there can do it the way you do it, right? So by definition, it's novel. It's never been done before. And listen, I went to a beauty space. There's millions of beauty companies, but I stayed authentic and did it a different way. Was told I was odd. Was told your idea is not going to work. And you guys, I started in my living room, and it was 3 years of, having this product that I believed in so strongly, that worked for me. But I didn't want to have crazy, fancy, expensive packaging, because I always felt like, as a consumer, for me, if I bought something that was so fancy, like it was really pretty, I would put it on my counter and I would look at it, but I wouldn't use it. I wanted people to, exactly, I wanted people to not be afraid and to use it. And so I was told over and over by a lot of retailers, your packaging is not expensive or fancy enough. And then when I wanted to use real women and people as models, I was told women won't buy makeup unless there's such this aspirational thing of beauty that they can never look like. That's what will sell. And I'm like, that doesn't, like, maybe, just maybe, women are sick and tired of seeing people who don't look like them modeling a product, because how are they going to know it works for them if they don't see somebody that has, anyways. So I would keep going in, and I kept getting told, right? You're not the right fit.
Well, you're bringing your values into your work, which is so key. You're bringing your values into work. You're like, I want to have, models for It Cosmetic who look like regular humans, not like the traditional, waif model. We wanted to have people who, were, just joyous and happy, and not like, you really wanted, like, you had people with, I remember looking back at some of your stuff that you did, and it was like, oh, these people have regular human facial expressions. You ever open those magazines and you look at everyone's facial expressions, you're like, that's not even anyway. So
and it's so really Photoshopped, but I used to say to them, like, I'm creating a company that authentically believes every person is beautiful. So why wouldn't I show every person as the models, right? And it was this just constant pushback. And by the way, sometimes it's little things. I remember, I love some good sweats. Like, I'm wearing sweats today. I love some good sweats, and I'll be fancy every once in a while. But in the start, for those of you that haven't heard the story, I sold the company I started in my living room to L'Oreal for over $1 billion. And it was 3 years of meetings with them. And the first time I ever walked into their office, I felt so odd, so out of place. Like, everyone dresses so well. and I was just like, okay, but here's the thing. I didn't change who I was. And I didn't start dressing like everyone at that company. And I didn't, right? And what happened, my whole point in all this, you guys, is, by the time L'Oreal bought our company for $1.2 billion, this was after years of meetings, they have the most beautiful portfolio of like 40 companies, 40 different beauty brands. And none of them were doing what we're doing. Like, they're all doing their own thing really beautifully, because I stuck to being odd and I didn't conform. Every time I thought, oh, well, if I do this, then that retailer will carry our products. Or if I change our packaging, then we'll be accepted. Like, had I changed everything, they would have never bought our company, because we would have been doing what everyone else is doing. And instead, because we were odd, we brought value to their portfolio. We didn't compete with anyone else in their portfolio. We were odd. We brought a whole new value and a whole new customer base. And
let me give another word for this too, Jamie, because this is like, I really want to, because I want to transfer this from, odd or even authentic, which can be, kind of like, sometimes I know someone watching might think, well, that's like pop self-help, here they are just being positive about this. Let me share, like, with some hard truth what that means. Being odd means you bring what is important to you into your day every day. You bring what is important to you into your work. Because what is important to you, that's your values, that's your inclination, that's your vision. That's your unique spirit or voice or inner speaking to, I want to do this, and I want to do it in this unique way that's my way. And when you honor that and you show up and you do that over and over and over, your quote unquote brand, whether that, or who you are, or how you live as a mom, as a team, as a leader, what happens and what manifests is this unique identity that's truly you, because you are living the things that are important to you, and you're bringing what's important to you into every day. And so for those of you who aren't on this track to build $1 billion company, or you're like, oh, I'm not like Brandon, I don't do that stuff, on the internets. Here's what I'm saying. Bring what is important to you into the world every day. And that oddness, that uniqueness, that will manifest itself into what you feel is living a life of personal freedom, doing what is important to you and beautiful to you. And that's where you find fulfillment. Because I always say, fake does not equal fulfillment. You can't fake it into fulfillment. You can fake it and get things done. You can fake it and stand out for a minute. But over the long term, you'll be miserable because you didn't bring what's important and true to you into your life. And so what Jamie had her ultimate success, just knowing her now as a friend and doing this Growth Day morning show together. And we have so much conversation together pretty much on the daily now. It's like she brought what is important to her into her space. She had rosacea. She said, I'm going to solve this rosacea thing. I need that's important to me. She solved her rosacea challenge by concocting cosmetics that are in her house. And that became literally $1 billion empire, y'all. So you just have to go, what's important to me? Let's work on that. Let's solve problems that are important to me. Let's express myself in ways that are true to me. And if you do that year over year over year over year, that's how you build something real.
Yeah, and I love that you use the word unique, because that's such a great word too, right? Versus odd. I'm like, we were odd, but unique. The things you.
I'm from Montana. I say weird. I'm weird, right?
You're weird. But and my big thing is, yes, live those, like you said. Yes, bring them into what you're doing, but also don't be scared of them when someone else doesn't get it. Like, don't change your uniqueness or your weirdness or your oddities when they're true to you and to your values, just because someone else doesn't get it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing, even though, like, I'll probably talk about this for another 100 years, but rejection sucks and rejection is painful. And it never got, it maybe got a little easier because I've gone through hearing no probably thousands of times in the journey, but it's never fun. But had I ever listened to that you're not enough feedback when it was something that was an authentic, unique oddity of a value I believed in, had I ever changed that, we would have never, ever had the outcome that we did. And it was just such a real life, full circle, good learning that, oh, wow, it was our oddities, our uniqueness, all of that about our company that we stayed true to that ended up really building something of value. And I love reading everyone's comments.
Just about your faith and how your faith has driven you through all of this. I know you didn't do it alone. You've definitely had a force guiding you your whole life. It's no doubt.
Yeah.
How important was your faith in God on this journey and doing all of this, and also just living your life the way you have lived?
Yeah, I love that you say too, I share it all in the book, because it's like 95% stuff I've never shared, including my journey of faith. And for anybody, listening or watching right now, if you've ever struggled with God doubt, right? Like, for decades of my life, John, I would pray and then I would feel like, maybe I'm a fraud because I don't know that I fully believe God exists. And I struggled with it. And, I mean, this was decades. And then when I went to graduate school in New York, and I was around a lot of people that had different faiths, no faith, believe only in science. And they believed only in things you could truly see, prove, touch, which of course faith is not required. And the more I was around all of it, it really started me second guessing everything about faith. And I share in this book for the first time what I did and what happened from there, and how I handled that, right? And there was a moment actually where, and I was raised in families that didn't go to therapy or didn't, you just either don't talk about it or you figure it out, right? There's a season I went through where, whole nother story in the book, finding out I was adopted by surprise in my 20s. And there were so many things that happened personally, struggling with fertility, so many things. So anyhow, I was in this season of just, feeling so down for the first time ever. And between not knowing where I came from with my parent, not knowing if God exists, I started seeing a therapist for the first time. And she said one thing to me during one of the sessions that changed my entire faith journey. And I don't even know what she believes, and no clue, by the way. I've never heard her talk about God in any of our sessions. So I said to her one day that I was doubting God exists and that all these things. And she says to me, well, why don't you tell him? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, if God created the entire universe, what makes you think he can't handle your doubt? Tell him you doubt him and ask him to prove you wrong. Ask him to prove you wrong beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'm like, okay. And so that started a multi-year thing where like, I mean, let me just keep it really real because I love you, John. I'll just keep it like real. I'm just going to pretend your whole community is my friend, just like you are. And I'm just going to say it. I would literally pray and be like, I would pray for, this person's health and this and all those things. And at the end, I'd be like, and I'm doubting you exist. So if you could please prove me wrong, I would be very grateful. Like, prove me wrong, be in a shadow of a doubt. Like, can you show up somehow where I just know? Like, in Jesus' name, amen. Like, those would be my prayers. And this went on for years. And stuff started happening that literally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, was God. In some cases, it was like told to me it was God. Like, and the more years that went on, the more I just grew to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, God's in control, God's time, all of these things, right? I won't share the whole story because so much of it is in the book, but the QVC host that came up to me that day and finally got a shot on QVC. So she retired after we launched, right? The one who discovered me at the expo. Many years later, she was, she had left QVC years before. We grew to be the biggest brand and number one brand. And so I was like, I have to thank her for loving our product that day. So I looked her up, I called her and I said to her, oh my gosh, thank you so much for loving our product. You changed my life. Like, can you believe we're the biggest brand in QVC's history? And she says to me, oh, honey, I do love your product, but that is not why I went up to you that day. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I was walking that expo with thousands and thousands of women. She goes, I clearly heard God tell me to go up to you and help that girl. And she goes, and I just listened. And I'm like, whoa, right? There's so many stories like that have happened. And so and I share so much more in the book, but anyone who's going through that, who believes but doubts, right? For me, telling God I doubt him, asking him to prove me wrong has changed my entire journey of faith. And the last thing I'll say is, like, I talk about my toolbox and all of that. And just for anyone listening or watching right now who struggles with doubt a lot, right? I talk about so many tips in the book, but if you struggle with feeling like you're not qualified, or you doubt yourself, or you get distracted by what other people are doing that looks so good online and they look so successful and this and that, or someone else has launched your product, whatever it is, like, at the end of the day, if you keep checking in with yourself and feeling in your gut, this is your purpose, you're on the right track, this is your mission. One thing in my toolbox, a famous saying that I used to always pull from that really helped me every time I would just try to channel it. And every time I felt not qualified. And the famous saying, just in case someone needs to hear this right now, somebody in your community needs to hear this right now. The famous saying is, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Right. And I would tell myself that over and over and over, because to me, it means if you're on the right track, you feel it, then I think it's part of your purpose and it's part of your calling, part of your mission. And if he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. To me, that means you already have everything you need inside of you right now, right, to accomplish your dreams. It just comes down to believing it for yourself.
Yeah, no one can keep you from what God has planned for you.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, when you were telling me the story about the woman saying that God told her to come talk to you, wow, I got goosebumps like you would not believe. Like, I just had a spiritual experience as you were sharing that, goosebumps, which always happens when God is showing up saying there's something more here. This is bigger. And wow, that was powerful when you said that. Major goosebumps on that moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.